Today we are going to discuss three categories of human beings. That's how we are different from all the other species. And indeed, we have devoted time on 10th January, we discussed humans versus animals, intellect versus instinct. And today we are going to discuss a very immediate corollary of that because we have multiple options. We are not programmed as other species are programmed. So we make our choices, and consequently, some of us are good people, some are bad. That doesn't happen in other species, is it not? So we'll see. Apart from this good and bad, how come there are three categories? It is easy to visualize two categories, good and bad. But generally, if there are divisions, we always say something is average, somebody is below average, somebody is above average. So there can be three categories. So let's discuss this. This is very important part of the Vedic philosophy, that how human beings are different from all other species. And it comes out, as we have discussed earlier, we have three kinds of powers or abilities to do: acquire knowledge, that is incoming through our five sensory organs. Then we have a powerful mind to process it logically, rationally, and come to certain conclusions. Like animals see, as we see a fruit or a leaf falling from the tree. They also have good eyesight, better than ours probably. We also see it. But then we have a powerful mind, that is intellect. We see it repeatedly, and then our scientists tell us that Earth has something called gravitational pulling force. It attracts everything towards its center. Of that, probably, animals are not able to conclude that. They do see things falling, but they may not have the idea that Earth has a gravitational force. So that's what scientists, philosophers tell us. And Arya Samaj, or this Vedic Sanskriti school, wants to go one step ahead, tell us that if there is a gravitational law, there is a conscious entity that is lawmaker that has made the law. It's not that the earth itself decided I should attract everything towards me, is it not? So there is a lawmaker, and he is also powerful enough to enforce the law, that everywhere in the universe, the law of gravitational force is taking place, is obeyed by every particle of matter. So that was our one ability, to acquire knowledge. And when we see an event through our five senses, it very often becomes an experience for us. That is called, Sanskrit term for knowledge is jnana. Of course, you are aware there is one more term for knowledge in Sanskrit, that is vidya. It may be interesting to see, in English, both vidya as well as jnana is knowledge. Is it not? But in our vocabulary, they have slight different meaning. So though that was not my intention, but it's interesting to look at it. What is the difference between these two words, Vidya and Jnana? So we talk about a lawmaker who is maker of the universe. He has made, this we have discussed at length, he has made everything behave in a particular manner. So he has affixed, these are the characteristics of air, these are the characteristics of water, the earth, the wood, the sun, moon, and plastic, and anything you name it, paper, anything. Anything that exists has certain characteristics, qualities, or behavioral pattern, or whatever you call it. And when we know it, we say, I am acquiring the vidya of that thing, is it not? So, vidya of wood is wood science. But where did it come from? It was embedded into wood by that superior being, is it not? Supreme consciousness. So he has determined all the characteristics of all the things, and that is what is called vidya. So vidya is the knowledge that exists in the universe that has been determined by that Ishwar. So listen to me this carefully. Vidya is the knowledge that exists in the universe and that I am interested in obtaining and acquiring. The segment of the Vidya that I have acquired is my jnana, is my knowledge. Have you understood? So Vidya is infinite knowledge that is existing in the universe. I am interested in getting to know it. But what a small fraction of that I have obtained is my jnana. Okay. So we call it our jnanendi, our sensory organ is means to acquire jnana, knowledge. That will be my vidya bank. So vidya as such is infinite, but jnana, my knowledge is small component. Okay. So this is slight distinction between these two words, vidya and jnana. Of course, in loose translation, we will all translate into English as knowledge, but there is a distinction between it. So I was talking about our three powers. One power is to acquire knowledge about the things that exist in the universe via five jnanendri, five sensory organs for sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. That even animals, birds also have it. Maybe they have it better. Once I have acquired, get to know the event, then I have feeling, I somehow relate to it. And then it becomes my personal experience. That has a wide spectrum. I may feel very good, I may feel very sad, what is called joy and pain, sukha and dukha, etc. And then, of course, we have an instinctive impulse. If something is causing pain, I want to get away from it. And if I am in a neutral state, then if I have some luxury, some money in my pocket, I want to acquire some joy, pleasures of life, some sukh. So our tendency is to get away from dukh. That is first priority. And if we are on a normal neutral stand, okay, let's have some sukh. Like later in the day, today is Super Bowl. So many people want to enjoy that, is it not? So if there is no dukh, let's try to get some happiness, joy, pleasures. So that is our second power to an event becomes bhog, it gives me an experience. And then, as I said, we want to get away from dukh and get closer to sukh. For that, we have to make some effort. That is action. So, outgoing action. So, in pictorial form, incoming knowledge, its effect on me is my experience, sukha dukh, and then my tendency to minimize dukh and maximize sukh by way of certain effort or by way of certain effort, I want to increase my knowledge bank, you know, like you are going to school, college, etc. So, we make all kinds of effort. What is it? Usually to increase our knowledge or to get away from pain and go towards joy. So that is action, that is outgoing, is it? So today we are going to discuss that a human being is going to get categorized as good and bad human. Can you guess based on what? I have a PhD from Princeton. Do you think I am a good man? Not necessarily, is it not? So knowledge does not make you good or bad. It is capable of making it. But in a community, in a society, you are judged finally by action. That is your outgoing, is it not? How your action affect others. Of course, we value knowledge because if you have good knowledge, you can balance various options better. You are smart. You are likely to choose good action, is it not? So knowledge is important, no doubt about that. But they are smart people, they are very knowledgeable, but they are doing bank dacoity, they are doing all kinds of cheating, is it not? So you have to be smart even to do bad, harmful things, is it not? So they use their intellectual power in a wrong direction, is it not? So that's what Sanskriti school is there, that yes, we should be powerful intellectually, bodily, physical, strength wise, but we should use these powers in a positive manner. So now we are coming into philosophy of karma, very intricate, very complicated, very, very complex. But in the remaining 30 minutes or so, let us try to understand. So I will say, you are aware of, we talked about karma now, and there is somebody, some superior agency who has made us a human being, who sent us into this world, and thereby we have a lot of freedom, is it not? We have discussed all this. Freedom of thought, freedom of action, and then you remember I use the word, when somebody gives me freedom, I become accountable to that agency. So that accountability is called law of karma, is it not? So there is a philosophy of karma, then there is a law of karma. Law of karma is very simple. If you do good to others, your life will somehow accrue what? Joy, happiness, pleasure, etc. So good karma brings sukh. This is the statement of the law of karma. And if it is your bad karma, if you have harmed somebody today, if not later in the evening, if not tomorrow, if not day after tomorrow, but there will be a day that you will have to face the consequence in the form of some sort of pain, some sort of suffering. So that statement is very clear. How do we know it? We just have to say, Vedas tell us, and also we will say that that is what we see in the world. But then there are many people who will point out, look, he's a very bad man, but he's enjoying his life. How come? Then things get complicated. Look, he is enjoying life. For certain karma, he did something in distant past, maybe in past life. They are bringing sukh to him at this stage. And nowadays he is doing bad karma. That will bring dukh to him later part. Then people have some doubts. What is this thing, why there is such a time gap of between the karma and its reward, so-called gestation period. So as I told you, this philosophy is very, very complex, and but it is there. But we are not going to go into all this detail. So what we have discussed in the last few minutes was simple, that we have three powers: to gain knowledge, to feel the experience, to act upon surroundings, to act upon others by way of karma. We have a lot of freedom. Of course, they are within certain limitations. I cannot, you know, I cannot push the Empire State Building. So we have certain limitations. But within the limitation, we have a lot of freedom, is it not? And the way I exercise my freedom, that makes a spectrum of good as well as bad. Good karma brings joy, pleasure, happiness, etc. If not the next moment, at some other. So there is a ledger book. Just like when you have a bank account, the banker is giving you, opens a new account in your name and has a new page. Whatever you put in is entered, whatever you withdraw is entered. So there is a final entry. What is the balance today? Is it here the banker is that Ishwar? We all have our bank account, whether we like it or not. But here the ledger entry is slightly, you know, double-edged, so to say. If you put good karma, that gets entered. And then that gives rise to sukh. That will be your withdrawal. There is another page. If you do a bad karma, that is also entered. And sooner or later, you will have to withdraw that also in terms of pain and suffering, dukh, whether you like it or not. But he's capable of doing that, is it not? So here is unusual thing is good karma and bad karma don't take care of each other. You know, somebody would think I have done 10 good karma today, 2 bad. So 10 minus 2, I should be having a balance of 8 good karma. It doesn't happen like that. He is maintaining a very complicated ledger book. How does he do it? That is his problem. But every entry, so every good karma, sooner or later, will have to give me a reward in terms of sukh, and every bad karma will give me a reward in terms of dukh. We cannot, you know, adjust them within themselves. So everybody has twofold account, so to say, is it not? So the account is a bit unusual, and because of gestation period, like if I am in my kitchen, I'm using my knife, I am careless, I cut my finger. So that carelessness was my karma, and reward come then and there, some sort of sensation. I felt bad, some blood came out, I have to put a band-aid. So the reward was instantaneous. So generally the reward is instantaneous so that you don't harm yourself much, is it not? If the reward did not come, probably you would have lost the whole finger, is it not? So there is a very complex design, but all this is for our own good, you know. Sometimes reward may come many, many days, many years, or even in the next life. Say, I am a meat eater, for example. Of course, I don't go into a forest or somewhere in somebody's farm, pick up an animal and take a knife, big butcher's knife, and kill the animal, come home with pieces of meat, cook it. I don't, nobody does like that. Very few people would do that. But there are many human beings who are meat eater. On their behalf, on their behalf, another human being is killing the animal, is it not? That is a negative karma. For no reason you are giving pain to an animal and taking away his life. You have no business because you cannot give life back to him. You have no business to take away somebody's life. So on my behalf, if I am a meat eater, somebody is killing. Then I pick up cut meat, I cook it and I eat it. I know very well for my meat consumption, certain animals, birds are killed, is it not? If I enjoy it very much, very much. So I have caused killings of hundreds and thousands of animals. So what? I deserve to become an animal who will be killed in the who will be killed by another bad human being, is it not? But I cannot become animal now. So that life that has to wait when I am when I am dead as a human being, then I will become an animal. Then I will be another mute animal, like I was killing another mute animal. Now I will be one of them, is it not? So I will go through that pain and suffering that I caused to some other. The reason I am giving this instance is certain rewards cannot come to me in my present life, is it not? In this life, this is very less likely. There is no cannibalism, so to say. No human being is going to kill me to eat my meat. That is very unlikely. Now, because I have caused that pain to several animals, I deserve to go through that pain, but that pain cannot happen in the present human life. So, next life, I will be an animal, and then I will see what that pain is it not? So, what I am trying to tell you is naturally, certain karma brings rewards then and there, but certain karma cannot bring rewards then and there. That is why there is a long gestation period. And that is one reason why people have doubt. They think that they can circumvent the law of karma. But we are told, and they are Ved mantras, that you cannot get away from it. It's always going to catch you sooner or later. So, this is what law of karma we have discussed. And we have discussed good karma and bad karma. So, obviously, now there are some good people and bad people, is it not? But now the title was three categories. So, that's where the, you know, crucial part of the Vedic philosophy is what is the third category? So I go to an example I might have given earlier, a mother and child example. So we are saying a little boy, 4 or 5 year old boy, just imagination, but it is not something difficult to visualize. It is something we can visualize. Let's look at it. One mother, one scenario, home scenario one. The mother tells her child, you go and clean up your room. The child is nice enough. He hears mother's instruction. He goes to his room. Things are scattered. He puts them as well as he can. He comes back. He tells his mother, I have done that. Mother says, good, you are a good child. Okay. Now we go to scenario number two, home number two. The mother tells the child, same thing. Go and clean up your room. The child doesn't move at all. So mother tells the second time, go and clean up the room. I will give you a candy. Now the child gets going and he goes there, cleans up his room, comes back and he says, reports, I have done that. So mother says, you are a good child. She gives him a candy as she had promised. Okay, good child, no problem. Let's move on. Now we go to the third home scenario number three. Now this is a bit difficult to visualize, but these are hypothetical things. So what is happening here? The mother says to the child, go and clean up your room. He doesn't get moving at all. Now she says, you go and clean up the room, I will give you a candy. Now he goes there. But that's what I said. It's difficult to visualize. No 4 year, 5 year old child, they are all honest. But just for sake of our argument, you know, just imagine this child is dishonest. He doesn't do anything. He just whiles away some time here and there, comes back and tells a pure lie. Mother, I have cleaned up the room. And the mother gives him a candy. So the third child is very unusual, but pardon me, we don't visualize such a child, 4-year, 5-year old, doing such a mischief. It's not a mischief, it's really bad. But just for sake of argument. So we have seen three children here, is it not? So the reason for this is so as to come out with why there are three categories of human beings. Now we will put the child number one apart. Look at the child number two and child number three. Because child number one was very unusual. He did not have to know about any inducement, about any candy. So that is, we are putting him in a different category. So child number one we'll consider later. So we come back to child number two and child number three. They both were told that if you do certain karma, you will get a reward. Child number two was fair game. He did that thing, came back and told to his mother, and he got the reward, a candy. Child number three, we will say, if it happens with adults, we will be quick to conclusion that the number two is a good man, number three is a bad man, because he took a course to speaking a false thing which he had not done. So, child number two and child number three are within the consideration of law of karma, and they knew that law of karma is if you do good, you get good rewards. If you do bad, you will get bad reward. But child number three is trying to circumvent it, which is never going to happen, because here the mother is that supreme mother. She knows everything. Now, there is another technical term we are bringing that is called sakam karma. So, karma is now being decided as one is when you do a karma with an eye on its reward. So everybody knows law of karma. Now, this is very unusual feature of the Vedic philosophy. Vedic philosophy describes the philosophy of karma. Then it says there is a law of karma. If you do good, you will get sukh. If you do bad, you will get dukh. Maybe the time gap is very large, but whatever it is, there is this. Now, these two kinds of karma, so called good as well as bad, they are coming under the heading of sakam karma. Sakam karma means a karma is executed with an eye on its reward. Now, it's a very funny statement. When we ourselves say there is a law of karma, that good karma being good reward, the bad karma being bad reward. Now, why are we saying that when somebody does with an eye on a reward, that is bound to happen, is it not? But then we are now interested in analyzing the child number one. So child number one is a different class, a very different class. So what is his class? He's not an idiot. He knows the law of karma, but he didn't bother about it. He was he didn't wait for a while that mother could spell out the inducement. He didn't bother. He just got going. And if we tell him about the story of the child number two and three, like they got candy. Child number good got candy for the same work that you did. And child number three was smarter. He did nothing and still he got the candy. So we asked child number one, why did you do it? So he will say, my mother loves me and I love her. So that's our relationship. When she expects something from me and I know she expects, I just do it. It's as simple as that. So he has some other formulation in his mind. His relationship with his mother is to such an extent that he is out of this business of law of karma. He says, I am not concerned about all those things. I just do anything that my mother expects from me. So I am like an automated machine. If I hear this is what my mother expects, I just do it. Oh, you are like that. So that is child number one. So now let's come to the adults. Now it is easy to understand. There are three categories of human beings in this world. You know, the first category is very superior. We will give him a name slightly later. The second and third category are good and bad people. They expect, they do certain things and expect certain rewards. The good man is good man. There's nothing lacking in him. But there are unfortunately some bad people also. But now this counterpart of the child number one, they are some very noble human beings, is it not? Now these noble human beings, like our volunteers in Sanskrit school, they don't get paid. They don't get any recognition. They are not in any big committee where they will get some powers, nothing like that. They get nothing out, and they know it. They will get nothing out of the hours they put in. At most, they just see, okay, we are doing it for overall good of our children, and my child is also attending the school. But now we have some volunteers, who children are not no more in the Sanskrit school. They still continue to work. So there is nothing that they get out of it. But if we ask them, why are you doing it? They will talk maybe in clear terms or in vague terms, whatever it is, something like child number one. They will say, मुझे अंदर अच्छा लगता है, आत्म संतोष, मुझे, yes, something they will say. So you can say that is also a reward. You feel good when you do something good without expecting anything in return. So now we know it. The child number one's karma is called as nishkam. You know, so that's why we use the term sakam karma for the child number 2 and 3. So there are three human beings. You know, the top one is nishkam karma. He is not a moron. He is not an idiot. He also knows the law of karma. But what does he do? He says, I do what Ishwar expects from me. Is it not? And if there is any reward, that I also surrender to Ishwar. So he says, my karm and my karm phal are both is my kasmai devaya havisha vidhem that we heard many times in the morning prayer. This is my havi to him. This is my offering to him. Like somebody goes to a temple, he offers a diya and some mithai and fruits, etc. But this person says, every day, every moment, I am connected to him. I know he loves me, so I cannot give much to him. But whatever I do is for his sake. So in philosophy of yoga, Patanjali's terminology, this is called as Ishwar Pranidhan. So Ishwar Pranidhan is that inner feeling that everything I have is dedicated to Ishwar. You know. So once it is dedicated to Ishwar, I am not interested in any reward. So what happens is, in his case, whatever karma he does, it does not even enter into ledger book. It doesn't enter into ledger book. So his karma are superior kind They don't enter into leisure book, so they don't bring any sukh, no dukh. So he says, okay, the best thing I want is be away from dukh, so I will be away from dukh. So that's why the strategy of his life is get away from dukh, but not towards sukh. He goes towards being with him. So he says, I just want to be जैसे एक बच्चा बोले मुझे बस माँ की गोद में जाना है, बस वहां मुझे दुख नहीं होगा, आई एम वेरी कॉन्फिडेंट। पर कोई दूसरा बच्चा बोलेगा वो सुख तो नहीं मिलेगा, मुझे सुख से नहीं मतलब, मुझे यही बहुत अच्छा है कि दुख नहीं मिलते, है ना। सो हिज स्ट्रेटजी ऑफ लाइफ इज वेरी डिफरेंट। ही सेज I am not going from dukh to sukh. I am just getting away from dukh because my karma is nishkam karma. It is dedicated to him. So I am not, I just don't have a bank account. I want to clear that bank account. Bank account is for ordinary human beings. Now those ordinary human beings are of two qualities, two categories. There are some good people and some not so good people. So we have seen by way of our karma, there are three categories. But these three categories were not that simple. Common sense will say average people and below average bad, above average good. It's not coming out that simply. It is not that simple minded description. There is a lot of philosophy in it. Yes, there are three categories. Top category is Nishkam Karma, where his whole way of life is different. He lives in the world, but he lives as the ambassador of Ishwar. He says, I am Ishwar's servant. I am his servant, and I am doing every action on mine is on his behalf. You know. So whatever Ishwar would do in this circumstance, I would. So he has chosen very high quality of karma, and those high quality of karma is called yajna. Nowadays, yajna is slightly misunderstood as if the havan is the only yajna. Havan is a yajna, but basically a yajna because Ishwar's all karma are yajna karma. So when I am so well tuned with him, when my wavelength and frequency is resonating with that of Ishwar, just like child number one, he is so well connected to his mother that he just knows what mother expects from him. That's it. The story ends here. So when an adult human being is so well connected to Ishwar, of course that is Upasana and all that. So I'm not going into those details again and again. But when you are so well connected, your conscience is working, you know it, this is right, that is good. Not that this is right because this will bring me reward. This is right because that is what is expected by Ishwar from me at this particular moment. And I will just do it. So that is our category one. And now just to give it a name, category one can be called as Devta, category two may be called as Manushya, category three is called Rakshas. So Rigveda says that Manu Bhava Janaya Devyam Janam. So Ishwar is telling us, when I am sending you into the world, don't let me down. At least behave as a human being the way you look. You look like a Manushya. Don't degrade beyond being Manushya. That is the message of Manu Bhava. Then he says, Janaya Devyam Janam. Give rise to. Do your best to give rise to Devatva within yourself and within your children, grandchildren, and the children of your community. So that's what the Sanskriti school is attempting to do. The school colleges will never teach. They will teach at least difference between Manushya and Rakshas. They will teach about moral code of conduct so that you stay as a good human being. But Getting connected to Ishwar and being a Devta, that is only Sanskriti school can teach. And that is what we are attempting. And that is what our teachers are playing an important role, part and parcel of this attempt. Thank you very much.